Thanks, Alakya, for the introduction. My experience is nearing a decade now. This is my 8th year as a co-op professional, but yes, I think the kind of the different environments that we look at as professionals when we think of marketing, I think this topic brings a lot of relevance to what we currently experience as consumers all across. And this entire effort of this lecture would be to understand the reasons behind why we behave in the manner that we do as consumers. What is our purchase process, right? Is it really purely driven by logic, or are there any other factors at play? And this has been an interesting kind of a revelation for me as well when I was preparing for this lecture, where we look at a lot of things that happened especially during festivals like Diwali was recently concluded, and we had many offers from different brands. And we also saw the data that many of these events were very successful. There was a lot of uptick in consumer purchase. And we somewhere as marketers need to think that why do people time and again during festivals shop so much, right? There is obviously a demand that is at play, but a very interesting consumer behavior is also at play, and that is the reason we see that we want to explore whether the consumers are really wanting to own what they are owning, or is it the age of AI? Is it the age of nudges, the age of recommendations that is also playing a part here? So when we think about the reasons, the consumer psychology behind this entire purchase journey, these two examples come to mind, right? That if as a consumer we have these two choices, whether one says that you save $2,000 if you purchase X item today, or you will not lose $2,000 more if you are going ahead with the purchase currently. I think many of these consumers would choose option two, right? Which is saying that they are at least ensuring there is no loss that they are facing. So such models actually come into play, and this is brilliant work that Daniel Kahneman has done. He is a Nobel laureate who put in the thought that human beings generally work with two types of thinkings. There is a system one thinking, and then there is system two thinking, right? And we believe that we purely take decisions from our brain, right? Using our brain, it is a rational decision that we take, but actually it is a combination of our mind and our heart, right? So that is where the interesting conversations, the interesting field of behavioral economics also comes in, where not all the decisions are purely logical, purely rational. There is a lot of emotional that is connected to any purchase that we do. So when Daniel Kahneman talks about system one and system two, what he typically says is that the emotional triggers that we incite as brands are very key to what the customer really wants to purchase for. So, for example, simple things like auto renewal of memberships, right? Why do people keep on renewing their membership subscriptions once they subscribe to a service? It is simply because there is no friction as such, right? They don't have to remember that they have to go back and pay the subscription. If they just put it on auto pay, there is no friction as such, and that sheer habit of not going through the payment purchase again actually helps the brand to get the customer and keep the customer with them, right? And hence many a times we see that any auto subscription, any renewal on Google Pay, for example, once it is made on auto pay, it keeps as such, right? Whether it is, say, Spotify, for example, whether it is Zomato, any of these services keep on getting these auto renewed subscriptions. Then we see that brands like Cred, they typically play the nostalgia game. They have a brilliant way to create humor from nostalgia, and people, consumers, love nostalgia. right? We like there is a self-serving bias that we were in such a good time during our young age, right? The current environment is very stressful, but we like to reminisce the olden days that we would have lived, and that is again an emotional trigger that comes in, which fuels into the system one thinking rather than the system two thinking, right? And hence many of the consumers would not remember the features of cred or the benefits that the that cred would be offering, but they do remember the ads that they are generating because of this bias to nostalgia and humor. So I'm not saying that it is only system one that comes into play, right? Obviously, in a purchase process, both system one, which is autonomous, emotional, fast, intuitive thinking that we attribute to, is system one. But then there is again system two, which is very rational, deliberate. The choices that we make, the analysis that we do for any decision comes from system two, and that triggers when we are going ahead with a certain option, right? So, for example, in Policy Bazaar, we might see a huge discount on premium for a certain policy, and we go ahead and look at the details of that policy. So, this entire process is system one led. But when we compare these policies, the benefits, etc., then obviously system two kicks in. So, that is where system one and two both are to be utilized well by the professionals, and that is where the key successful campaigns that we see today are the ones who are able to tap in both system 1 and system 2 ethically as well as very subtly. So the key insight here is that we buy on emotion, right, and then justify with logic. So that is where we have to ensure that we understand how the system 1 works, so that we build campaigns, we communicate with our consumers in a certain manner, and then make sure that our products, our services, our features are so good, or at least are comparable in the market, for the system to also to go ahead and make the purchase, right? So when we are compared against the competition or against any other product in the market, it should stand true to its promise, right? And that is what system 2 will verify. But to get the customer in the consideration set, I think system 1 will make a lot of impact. So thinking about then going deeper into why we actually go and do certain things as consumers, there are multiple biases at play, right? And if you have to delve deeper into some of those major biases, then this is the first example where if you see on a normal day on any any e-com site, whether it's Flipkart, Amazon, you will see that there is a certain discount that is tagged, right? An item of around 2000 rupees is tagged at 499. But on big billion days, that entire list price becomes 2500, and the selling price still be is around 500, right? So there is an anchor that gets set when we talk about such kind of pricing. When you see that 2500 rupees was the original price of the product which has now been struck, there is a reason that they want to show you the original price and then intuitively make you compare that original price versus what they are selling for. And that gives me that adrenaline rush that, oh my god, I'm getting an 80% kind of a discount on this product, so let me go and buy it, right? Similarly, there is a similar phone that maybe a customer is comparing, but the ratings are the ones which are mandatorily shown on every product that we purchase, right? And why is that the case? Because as consumers, again, we tend to go ahead with a product which is highly rated when we compare, right? Because in the same consideration set for the similar products, this becomes another major anchor or major factor for me to go ahead and purchase. So not only the ratings that we see on Amazon, but Uber, Ola, both are examples where we see what social proofing does. Google reviews, Google ratings for any small local businesses is another example, right? And increasingly, as the penetration of social media increases, as the awareness in the consumers for these different platforms increase, we see that ratings become a primary source of validation for any consumer if they are typically purchasing for the first time, right? And hence on Zomato as well, on Swiggy, Urban Company, for example, there is a premium that is charged if you want good rated service or good rated restaurants, right? Because that is one business model now where if the consumers also realize that if they are going ahead for a better rated product or a service, it's okay if they have to pay a slight premium, but they are guaranteed that the service will be rendered well. So these two biases, whether it's anchor bias or social proof that we talk about, is very critical for us to understand as marketers, because that is what will drive consumers to your product, right? It's not just how good your product is and how good you are advertising it, right? You are ultimately selling your product and consumers know it. It is the other thing, and it is more impactful that others are now referring to your product and are liking your product, are speaking good about your product, right? And that is the social proof that really comes in and helps the brands to grow, right? One of the important aspect of this has been understood by the entire service industry for quite some time. There is a measure that in any service industry we use, which is the net promoter score, right? And what that score essentially means, and maybe most of you would be learning it during your courses as well. It is basically saying that how many consumers that you are catering to are likely to tell others about your product, recommend your service to others, right? And that is a very impactful factor, because if you are getting good reviews from 10 others, right, your trust in the brand increases, and that is what helps the brands grow sustainably. And over the long period, that is also a cheaper way to do business rather than spending on performance marketing and things to acquire consumers. Going ahead for some other biases, right? So on Swiggy, Zomato, and many other apps, we would see a timer, a countdown that is happening, right? And many of us are in the zone that this stock is lasting only up to so much of time. In fact, when Apple launches any product, or during big billion day sales or great Indian festival sales, you will see that there is a counter that comes on those websites that in so much of time the sale is going to come out. In fact, for Amazon Prime, you will see that there is an exclusive access given to Prime members before the product opens up to others. What is this, right? Why do we want to cater, and why the consumers are getting driven to this entire narrative? That is because there is a lot of fear of missing out, the FOMO that we call out, right, is at play here. Loss aversion is a major factor for consumers. They don't want to miss out on any offer that comes in. And also, it creates that urgency bias, right? Showing a timer, showing the counter ticking down, and it is never the other way, right? We never give the time in an ascending trajectory, saying that the seconds or the minutes are increasing. That's not the case. It is always a countdown, because we want to create that urgency, right? Similarly, for Prime members, they feel that again rush, that pleasure, that they are the ones who are getting an exclusive access. And I'll also come to the scarcity bias when we touch that. It gives that entire narrative of feeling special when they are purchasing something, and which actually contributes to an increased sale, just because they are getting that exclusive access. The other bit, many of us would be seeing such tags, right? And increasingly, many consumers, especially Gen Zs, are becoming more sustainable conscious. They want to purchase products which are sustainable, good for the earth, recyclable, and all such things. And that is a brilliant trend that is coming in. And brands are aware that they have to be socially conscious, they have to be environmentally conscious when they are producing anything. So such tags of climate pledge friendly, right? So for example, if I am a consumer who believes strongly in climate change, who believes strongly in environmental balance, then this badge would actually incite me to purchase the product, even if the product is not as superior to something in the market, right? Because it is something which is very personal for me. I will associate to such product, right? And hence, it is very important to for the brands also to talk about these things if they want to play in the zone of sustainability. Many of the current brands, and we have a host of new startups who are doing this, who are riding the wave of fitness. Right, you see that many of the food brands are now coming up with mentions of no palm oil. Zero trans fat was something that was started by the major FMCGs, but now brands like the Whole Truth, right? They are completely playing in this space where any fitness conscious person would want to purchase their product versus any standard product from other FMCGs, because it is very it is serving their own biases, their own thinking that I want to be somebody who want to consume good healthy food. So this again becomes a very important factor, very important bias when we think about the purchase journey. There is one more thing, and all of us here would be alluding to this, that whether it's Netflix, whether it's any OTT streaming service for that matter, it has a host of programs, right? And the content is endless, and we want to consume that content, but at the same time, all of us end up going ahead with what is recommended by these platforms, right? And there is, and that is where AI, understanding the consumer, the entire reading and the digital analytics, all of those things come into play, because basis what we have seen, right? There are a lot of recommendations that come in, and consumers actually like that, right? It gives me the feeling that okay, I am choosing what I want to view, but I am getting a curated choice, right? So it is never a good thing for the consumer to be left in a choice overload kind of a situation, right? You will lose out if you make the customer choose from host of different things, right? You will have to guide the consumer in an intuitive manner uh, to the product, to the service that they would like, right? You can't offer everything that you have to every consumer, and OTT platforms do a brilliant job for this, because they always have either what is trending in the country. For example, if we talk about Netflix, then they have recommendations basis what you have seen. They have recommendations related to what genres you see, right? And that is a brilliant way to keep customers to come back to your platform when they are watching, right? And hence these biases, whether it's loss aversion or confirmation bias or choice overload, are some things which brands are aware of, and they consciously try to minimize these or play for these biases. Uh, One more bias, and I think it is a critical one which all of us would have faced when we would be, going to movies, is that there is a popcorn priced at say half the price for small version, and then there is a larger bucket of popcorn which is available, and then there is one third option which is mentioned, which is very the delta between the two options of medium and large would be almost negligible, right? But still, that is what they want us to see, because this is where the decoy effect comes into play. Many of you would be knowing it, but uh, for those who don't know it, decoy effect comes into play where you introduce, and this is a brilliant example in pricing, right? How do you price your product, especially when you have a host of choices and you want to drive the consumer to a premium choice, but not make the consumer feel that you have upsold your product. So a decoy price or a decoy product fits in where, because of this medium popcorn, as a consumer, I would think that this will anchor my perception of the price to 7.25, and then I would see that okay, I am getting a better quantity, a better deal just by paying around whatever 75 cents more, right? And it becomes a killer deal for me, rather than giving me just two options of 4.25 and 7.99, where every time most of the consumers will go for the cheaper option, right? So it is not just that you are catering to a mass consumer. There are ways to upgrade your consumer. There are ways to premiumize your purchases, and it's not that this is being done purposely. It's more about giving the consumer a choice and pricing your choices in a way that drives premiumization for the consumer, right? So these are the things that are at play majorly. And again, the insight for marketers here is that many of these biases that we talked about, they tilt our choices, right? And that is how our brain functions. It's not that it is only limited to the Indian consumers. It is a worldwide phenomena. All of the humans do this, right? Because it's simply the way that our brain functions, right? But if as marketers we understand this, then we will consciously work on our pricing. We will consciously work on the UI of our apps, the user experience that we want to give, whether it's a service or a product. Because if we then think about the way that the consumers think while they would be evaluating your products, your services, then you will be able to better cater to their needs and ensure that your product wins in the market. So it is very important to tap into these impulses and then influence what the consumers want to buy, right? Now, these are the fundamental, I would say we talked about the emotional or the psychological triggers, the biases, when consumers go ahead and purchase in the market. But how will you actually do this, right? And that is where these nudges and designs come into play. So as marketers, we need to understand, most of us today work in D2C brands, right? And there are applications for most of the businesses. Any consumer facing business will have one or the other app, and it becomes a brilliant way to design your application if you understand what is driving the consumer behavior, right? And many of the UI experts actually know this, that what are the motor factors, how motor heavy, which means that whether the consumer wants to navigate too much on the same page of the app, whether the app is very intuitive or not. So WhatsApp is a brilliant example, right? Any age group of consumer, if he starts just loading on WhatsApp and he start using WhatsApp for the first time, he will understand what to do, where to do, how to do intuitively on the app, right? So it is a brilliant example of a simple UI which gets the job done. And all these things, not only UI design, but product design, a campaign design, copy of your campaign, all of these will be more impactful if you understand these nudges, right? So the fundamental thing, all humans are lazy, right? And when we say lazy, it means that we want to take the shortest route possible to get the work done. And that is what system one thinking also is, right? Our brain wants the complete picture. Our brain wants the least friction, and hence things like auto renewal of subscriptions that we talked about, or Netflix auto plays the next episode and we never realize that we have binge watched for 3 hours, 4 hours straight, right? And most of you hostelites would know that, right? That we start before a term paper, that we'll just have a break of around 20 minutes and we end up spending 2 hours. So it's by design that it happens, and our brains are wired to do that. So whether it's Ola flight insurance, so for example, many of us would go and accept those privacy terms and conditions which are auto tick mark, right? Most of us would be aware that whenever we catch a Ola to go for to an airport, the Ola flight insurance is the default tick that happens there, and we don't get the effort even to click on that checkbox once and move ahead, because we are so lazy that we have that 1 rupee, 2 rupees, or whatever that amount is, to just auto debit from our account. So that is what I'm talking about. Is a way to ensure that you are designing the product, understanding what the consumer really behaves like, right? So we tend to stick with the default choices, and this is the first nudge, I would say, when we create any app, and that is what we see day in, day out. The second nudge is the framing effect, right? Many of us would have seen such advertisements, whether it's 99.9% bacteria free, right? Why doesn't the brand say that it is 0.1% germs will be staying with you, right? Rather than saying 99.9% will be killed. 0.1% is also a very small number, right? Or saying that, you know, 33% of women in India represent themselves in the parliament, or the constitution permits 33%, or maybe any example saying that 33% of the audience is catering to your show. Rather than saying that, if you say that one in every three customers is subscribing to my show, right? It creates a different impact. You are telling the same thing, but you are framing it very differently. So the way that you frame a certain thing goes a long way in ensuring that the customer goes and actually tries out your product. So this is another important factor when we talk about whether the nudges that get it the consumers going, because framing a thing will work well for you, and if you actually do it badly, it actually gives a lot of backlash from the consumers as well. And we have seen case studies where the brand communication has not been up to the point and they had to pay the price just because they framed it very differently. So this becomes an important lesson in communication, particularly. How do you want to say what you want to say becomes is as important as your product, right? Uh, then there are things where we just show, as I mentioned, the timer, the counter, or we show that only two are left in the stock, one item is left in the stock. On carts, if you see, there is a number that is saying that complete your purchase. There are 6 items in your cart and all of that. All of these things actually create that sense of urgency or the sense of scarcity, right? I don't want to lose out. I want to complete my purchase today because this particular item is in the stock. I am not sure whether it will be there in the future or not, and hence maybe I want to complete my purchase right now. So again, it is nudging you to make that purchase, and right now, compared to delaying it further, even if your requirement per se might not be immediate, but you will purchase it anyways because it is a limited item. Many of the luxury brands actually play in this space very well, right? We all have heard examples of, say, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, or maybe Rolex for the limited editions watches, right? Why do they want us to be aware that this is a limited edition? This is only, say, 50 pieces in the world, only 100 pieces in the world, because it gives that sense of pride and scarcity for the consumers to go ahead and pay a premium, even if logically speaking they should not pay for such kind of a product. Because it gives me a sense of ownership, a sense of entitlement, that no one else possesses this product or this service, and only I am the one who is actually enjoying this. So it is a brilliant way to do that. Many of the service industries in travel, for example, are now starting to do this, where it says that this is a 5-star kind of a luxury travel, and it is not for all the people, right? So it is a good way to frame your communication in a way that it becomes very aspirational. Credit cards, right, again are a brilliant example where they commit certain rewards for every purchase, and that actually creates a loop of constant purchases from the same credit card, and small rewards, and hence many of the airlines do it. right? They give you miles. Jet Airways was a brilliant example in its days. Air India has now started. Indigo has its blue chip coins. So all these airline industries, the hotel industry, they work on this model where they reward you for coming back to their service, coming back to their airline. Because fintech is another example, right? Where whether it is credit, Google Pay, why do you still get rewards for every transaction on Google Pay? Whether you actually redeem it or not is a separate question. But you still come back to Google Pay because you are getting certain benefits there. So this commitment device is again an important nudge, and increasingly so. Many of the other brands are doing this, and this is also one important criteria for the product brands to now get into service. So we have seen an increasing trend from product only companies to get into services, and in their service model relies on this hook for the consumer to come back. Whether it's Apple, which is the recent example that has given a commitment to scale its service arm. And then there are multiple other examples where these are not just now product companies, these are now service companies as well. So uh, ensuring that the consumer loyalty stays with you is not only through rewards. There are multiple other things that you have to do. You have to stay authentic to your brand. You have to deliver that experience time and again. But at the same time, these rewards help for the consumer to act as a hook when they come back, right? Finally, social norms. I don't know how many students are there here or people who would be watching this. Many of you would be engineers, right? And this is the biggest example of this nudge that we have, right? That we get swayed by what others are doing. Most of us did engineering because others were doing it, right? And then we came into MBA, hopefully by our choice. But again, if there are 70-80% of you who would be doing this just because others are doing it, then again you have fallen prey to this nudge, right? And India as a country is a collectivist society, right? And in such countries, in such societies, social norms have a bigger role than that they would be having in some maybe other geography. So it is important to realize that in the Indian market especially, if your brand, if your product is being talked about by many others, if your product is being used by others, the network effect kicks in much faster in India than in any other country, because people rely on others' opinion for their purchases. A brilliant example of this is also the way that the entire stock market works, right? Many very few people would be actually doing the entire analysis. They'll be mostly relying on what the financial experts are saying, and they would be investing their money accordingly. Then Dream 11 was another example. All of these new betting apps, the gaming apps that are coming in, is a factor of these social norms. The entire influencer community and the growing influence of this community on social media is another trend that is fueled by this nudge of social norms. 80% of Gen Zs today, right, are saying that they have purchased a product because it has been recommended by the influencer that they are following. And that is the kind of weight that these influencers carry, and it is because of this nudge of social norms that we have. So the insight for these nudges and designs for us is that these nudges that we talked about, they speak the language of our brains. They speak the language of our system one, and it taps into the desire for ease, for speed, for us, and that is how they are guiding the consumers to the choices that they are making. And it is again important for us to realize these choices and ensure that we are also participating in that. One final section that I would also want to touch is, ultimately in India, buying is very personal, right? It's not, and when I say that it is personal, it goes beyond logic, right? Many a times we purchase a certain item because it is maybe not logically prudent then, but it gives me that emotional pleasure that I am seeking when I am purchasing that product, right? Uh, and hence I say that purchasing isn't just an economic act; it is woven in culture, rituals, tradition, aspiration, right? And it is a very major hook, especially again for Indian consumers, because of our collectivist approach, because of our the value that we give for others' opinions. Uh, there is a lot of I would say pride associated in owning certain brands, in owning certain products, right? And we as marketers need to tap into these deep currents, in these deep emotional hooks. So one such example is Cadbury, right? Where when we talk about how can we capture or ride the rituals that are present in the Indian traditions, it is very common for us to exchange sweets during Diwali, right? All of us would be doing it, whether it's Diwali, it's Eid, it's any other festival, whether it's Christmas, Pongal, any where in India festivals are associated with sweets, right? And uh, Cadbury has done a brilliant job to replace those sweets with chocolates, right? And they created memorable campaigns where they are saying that kuch meetha ho jaye, and they actually changed a simple ritual. Rather, Diwali is one example, but a simple ritual after Indian dinners is to have something sweet, right? And that is what they captured, that why can't a chocolate serve that space? You don't need to have any other mithai in a sense. After your dinner you can just have a Cadbury, and that is a brilliant way to capture the space, to understand the ritual that we have in our daily lives and then ride on it. Similarly, when we talk about Asian Paints, for example, uh, they have a brilliant hook of emotion where they have associated paints to not only something which goes on a surface, right, which is not just a protective coating, but there is a big emotion that lies for the consumer regarding his home, right? We are very emotional when we talk about our home. That is the space that we are in. That is a space that we feel is completely ours, and hence there is a lot of emotional value that is attached to homes. And Asian Paints has done a brilliant job to ensure that that emotion is intact and associate themselves with that emotion of home, right? Similarly, if we look at aspiration and status, right, all of you would recognize what this image is, right? It is the recent launch of iPhone 17, I think Pro Max is the image. And if you would have looked at the ads that came in the newspapers during this time, Apple never talked about the features of the product, right? It was just this image on the newspaper, and then there was then there was one finger on which there is a thin stick kind of a image that comes in just to show that how thin the new phone is, and that's all, right? They didn't have to speak anything else because people associate owning an iPhone with aspiration, right? They feel that they've arrived in life if they possess an iPhone, right? And that is again a brilliant work that Apple has done to create that aspirational status, right? So much so that they don't have to convince the customer by talking about anything else but the brand, because people understand, and it is also driven by the underlying quality of Apple products. People obviously know that if it is from Apple, it will be a quality product, but at the same time, there is no discussion on the features of the product because it's Apple, right? And it is a very difficult thing to create that space, but they have managed to do it beautifully. Similarly, in the Diwali fervor, I am just trying to quote all the recent examples. There was again a very brilliant ad in the newspapers by Mercedes, right? And they just gave this picture on the front page of the paper. And when you hold the paper like this, you know, it gives you the feeling that you are holding the steering wheel of a Mercedes car. And that is where there is just a simple tagline saying that a dream is never too far away, because they understand that that is the aspiration for any person who is currently not owning a Mercedes to do that, right? And that is their dream, that someday I'll own and drive this car. And that is what they have played on to, right? That just hold your dream, and it is never too far. So again, a brilliant example. None of these ads talked about the features of what Mercedes is all about. It's just pure aspiration, emotion that is at play. Similarly, if you look at identity and association, right? Many of us feel very strongly about certain brands. So much so that we associate our identity to that brand. And many of these examples would be in IPL fan clubs, for example. RCB is one club which is known to have die-hard fans who associate themselves with the franchise. CSK is another, where it has a huge fan base and very strong loyal supporters. Indian cricket team is one such, and today we are recording when the women's team is trying to chase its first World Cup in 50 overs. So I think all the best to them. But again, the whole of India is behind our girls today. So I think this kind of an association to that brand of Indian cricket today, or in football, we see many of these arch rivals, whether it's Real Madrid versus Barcelona, or it's Liverpool versus Manu. Many of us would have very passionate discussions about which team is better, right? And there is none of us would even be visiting these countries, let alone watching these matches live, right? But it gives me that sense because it is coming from that space of association with these brands. And again, Nike does a brilliant job in creating such kind of communities, right? Where running is associated with Nike, and they continuously invest in making sure that they are into this space, because when the brand goes beyond the product, right, it goes to create communities. Royal Enfield is another example, right? It gives the sense of a common community, a sense of us belonging to a certain special group, so to say. And we as social animals love that, right? And if a brand can create that kind of an association, then uh, it gives a lot of room for adjacencies to grow as well. So for example, a Royal Enfield group will have its own pages, that they will have their solutions, they will have many feedback. It becomes a very good sounding board for the brand to go and take feedback on the product, on what they should do next, what is clicking, what is not clicking. So when you have to scale the brand, and when you have to create that kind of a community, especially in the age of social media, it has become easier one, but at the same time challenging, because most of them are doing it, right? So as marketers, we will need to understand whether our product can have that potential to create a community, to have that kind of an association. And if yes, I think we should definitely ride that wave, because it helps to grow the brand sustainably. I would also want to tie in the kind of word of mouth that these communities create, right? And as we saw, we are a collectivist society. Social norms are we hold them in high regard. So if such communities start talking about our product in a positive manner, it helps me to bring down my acquisition costs and ensure that the brand scales well. So the bottom line here is that a purchase that a consumer makes is often a statement. Many of us, in the rut of looking at what the consumers are thinking and where are they purchasing, the 4 P's of marketing that we talk about. But this is a very important criteria, that maybe consumers are looking for something very different from your product and they are getting that and hence they are purchasing, which might not be what you are thinking, right? And it is hence very important to understand the tradition, the status, the group that you're catering to, who is your TG when we ask that question. You also need to study these factors, that what are the cultural influences, what are the social influences of my TG, because that plays a key role in driving consideration and in driving the purchase, right? So, and hence when we say that successful marketing aligns with these cultural and aspirational drivers, it is just going beyond the product specifications, and hence this becomes very critical, right? Coming to the future of marketing, right? Where does it lie? Gen Z is now increasingly coming into the consumer base. Now they have started earning, and AI in the last 2 years has exploded. The kind of things that we can do with AI was unimaginable even 2 years ago, right? So it is the entire loop, I would say, that we have completed when we say that, the future, we have gone from A to Z and now maybe we are going to go back from Z to A, right? And when I say that, AI is going to be the major taste maker for any brand, right? Uh, but as consumers and as marketers, we need to really ask the question, that is it truly what we want, or it is something that we have been made to want, right? And that is where, as brands, as marketers, we need to be very authentic. We need to be respectable of consumer privacy, right? There are laws that are getting passed, and which is good, that we are wanting to safeguard the consumer privacy. Many of the brands are doing that already. Their privacy is one of the notes that they are wanting to play on. Apple is one brilliant example, who were the first ones in the smartphone industry to come up with privacy as the only communication in their campaigns, because and that served very well, right? It was the only brand that was promising complete privacy, and I think increasingly other brands have started to do it, and that is going to be the way forward, because Gen Zs as consumers, they want authenticity, they want personalization, but they want their privacy, and hence as brands who would be respecting this privacy, who would be giving a clear visibility of how the data is going to be used, and manage it very responsibly, are the ones who are going to grow, right? With these consumers, and hence authenticity is of paramount importance. Then short form content has come up very rapidly with the advent of Instagram and Meta. Many of the Gen Zs don't watch cable network at all, right? So the erstwhile campaigns on TV, the one ad that we used to give on TV, and until recently, like 10 years back also, it used to have a good impact, good recall, right? But today, Gen Zs are exposed to so many different platforms that you need to be present on these platforms for sure. But at the same time, the way that you are creating content also needs to be revamped, right? You can't stick to the same formula that you were maybe following when you were doing a TV ad. The dynamics or the language of short form content is very different. So whether it's tying up with influencers, whether it's creating content within the teams, ensuring that you are doing that, and with AI, this content creation has also become quite easy, right? But again, you need to be authentic about it. You could just can't pass off an AI generated content as is to the consumers, thinking that they would be liking it. It gives you speed, accuracy, it gives you wings to your imagination, creativity, but at the same time, how well you are using it to time with your brand is becoming increasingly important. Social commerce again is a very big trend. I think the as I mentioned, many of the Gen Zs are following influencers and they are buying from their own community, right? It's not that you will have your pure play e-com or quick com platforms only to sell. If your brand is relevant and it is highly influencer led, say for example beauty is one industry which is very influencer led today. So it will be a good idea to time with such influencers and get your product sold through that channel, and not maybe through the traditional GTs or MTs that we talk about. And then there are interactive experiences that these consumers are looking forward to, whether it's VR, whether it's visualization of different things. We have seen brands like IKEA, like Amazon, coming up with AR showrooms where they can see the product in their homes and then go and purchase it. Right. So a lot of this interaction is being made possible with the advent of technology, and it is only going to go further up. What matters for the brands is to again be rooted in authenticity, right? Sell for the right reasons, nudge for the right reasons, and utilize AI in a responsible and respectable manner for the consumers. If we do all of this, I think it is going to be an exciting time for any marketer to be in the space, because the technology is changing so rapidly that you never know what is the next trend that is coming in, and it also keeps you on toes as professionals and also adds a lot of value to you when you are working. So towards the end, I would just say that is it really you who is choosing what you are choosing, or is it something else? So think about it. And as marketers, as professionals who will be getting into the industry, this is the question that you'll need to solve for. So thank you for the time.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I just have a little question or something to add. When you talked about nudges, something I could think about the influencer marketing is uh, like there were Labubu dolls that
Yeah.
have gotten like really famous because one of the influencer was wearing it, and then everyone wanted it. So that would come something similar to the nudges. That is nudges, right?
Yes. Again, so social norms is one big thing that is coming in. Also, somewhere fear of missing out also kicks in when such trends pick up, right? Even if maybe you are not influenced by that influencer or people who would be purchasing that item, in your social circle, you want to be you want to be validated, and you don't want to miss out on that kind of a trend, and hence you go and purchase it, right? So how do you want to play that is something for the brand to decide. But I think such trends, and increasingly maybe as brands you create trends, right?
Right.
And maybe you can see none of these can be planned, none of the trends can be planned as such. But say for example, Amul does a brilliant job in capturing the moments, right? The moment marketing that we talk about, it is also like riding the trend wave and making your brand recall that much higher in such cases. So it is a reality that such trends kick in, and social media, Instagram is all about that. How well can you play on that, or which trends should you be a part of, should you not be a part of, is something for the brand to decide.
Okay, and also in India, we value more on the emotion part,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So even when Maggie was banned, like when they're
yeah.
coming back, they still like came back with the emotion part that made us buy their product back.
Correct.
So
Yes. So I
is
think
it,
there, yeah, sorry, continue.
yeah, so in particular to India, if we want to enter as a brand,
Yeah.
maybe is that something we should look onto on the first place?
See, so it also depends on what the brand is standing for. So Nestle in general was always talking about quality, right? And
Right.
when that entire Maggie episode happened, people, because they were sure of the quality of the product, right? They would have experienced it for so many years. There was some nostalgia also which kicked in, right? And that is where and see, other players also had an opportunity. Maggie was banned for certain time, right? So the market was open for others to capture. But if the
Right.
again, that is where my system 2 point comes in, that if your product, the taste that Maggie gives versus somebody else gives,
Mm.
if that is true, then maybe they could have captured the market, but that couldn't happen because none of the other product was also as good as or as tasty, I would say, as a Maggie was, right? And hence,
Right.
though there was an opportunity, it was something which couldn't be replaced with the product features. I would put it that way.
Mm.
And then, yes, the entire goodwill, the nostalgia that Maggie had was there. Coming to your question of how an international brand can enter India, I think, as I mentioned, first is the category specifics that will be coming into play. For example, if it's say a beauty, then you will have to get through the influencer route. But if it is something where you can evoke a certain emotion, any emotion, I think yes, emotional hooks are something that work well with the Indian audiences. Uh, and we like to have those. So Indian consumer is always who will have a mixed bag of choices, right? It will never be this or that. It will be always a combination of the two, right? So as brands is, and especially somebody entering from the outside, they find it very difficult, right? Very confusing in a way that, okay, do we have to cater to this as well as to that requirement?
Yeah.
But we as consumers are such, right? So uh, being flexible is another part where they it can be an emotional narrative, but at the same time maybe you will have to do multiple other things to get to the psyche of the consumer.
Okay.
So it depends on multiple factors, but I think flexibility and adaptability is the key for MNC brands to come in India.
Okay. So it would depend on the product, and also we should be flexible enough.
Yeah, flexible in terms of what your I would say to what your consumer is
Okay.
essentially, right? So let me just give you an example. If we have a very premium brand, right? It
Right.
is not that the consumers will not be at all worried about the pricing.
Mm.
Though I will have the purchasing power as a premium consumer, I might want to still be convinced enough to pay that price.
Right.
So that kind of a factor where negotiation at that kind of a consumer will also happen, which might not be the case in some other countries, right? So
Right.
for the brand to be accommodative and be adaptable to that fact is important if they have to win in India.
Okay. Okay. In the interest of time, we'll close the talk here. So, on behalf of the Alumni Committee, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Mr. Parikshit Deshmukh for taking time on us on a Sunday and sharing your valuable insights and your perspective on the why behind the buy. It actually helped us understand the marketing techniques, cognitive biases, and cultural nuances. And the real world lessons that you shared have also helped us understand the marketing strategies that we might use it for our future upcoming roles. And also, I would like to thank Mr. Professor Manish Popli, Chair, Alumni Affairs, for his continued guidance and support. And a special thanks to Alumni Office, whose efforts behind the scenes have made this talk possible. And of course, a big thank you for the audience. And we look forward to welcoming you for our next session of Wisdom, the Alumni Talk Series. Thank you once again. Thank you so much, Parikshit.
Definitely looking forward to it. Thank you so much to the Alum committee, to Alekia for coordinating, and to our faculty members as well for giving me this opportunity. Always good to come back to the institute. So thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you so much.